understands is that toxic free is in quotations for a reason. One of the biggest things that we see nowadays is that, you know, we see, you know, the all natural, the paraben free, all these different words and topics and, you know, points that media makes it, you know, clear that we need to be, you know, toxic free or all natural. But in reality, that's like, it's almost impossible to have something be 100% toxic free unless you know exactly where it came from or you made it yourself and you know what you put inside of it. So I'll continue to move forward. Hold on, here we go. So a little bit about BWW. Okay, so I work for Black Women for Wellness, and Black Women for Wellness believes in the strength and wisdom of our community and allies. So we believe that we have the solutions, resources, and responsibility to create the shifts and changes that we need that ultimately impact our health status. So each of us must develop our personal power, hold accountable, and support acknowledged leadership, and most importantly, contribute to the survival of our community. So one of the ways that Black Women for Wellness focuses on doing this, which is our mission, is surrounding any topics and all things relating to reproductive justice and environmental justice, as well as voting and, you know, and just rights in general for Black people. So as we talk about, you know, reproductive justice and the environmental aspect of it, the things that we put inside of our body as far as digestion and nutrients, as well as on top of our body, as far as beauty products, you know, things that we put on our skin and our hair, all of those things impact our health status. So that's the reason why we are here today to discuss about the toxic chemicals, as well as how you can make toxic-free items on your own. Okay, so beware of the following toxic chemicals. So when I use the word toxic chemicals or EDCs, EDC is endocrine disrupting chemicals. We're referring to this list that you see here in white. So EDCs interfere with your endocrine system's function. So our endocrine system is responsible for regulating hormones, making sure that our brains are functioning properly, as well as reproductive, you know, the onset of puberty, and as well as after you've had your children, and for women when we go into menopause. So the following chemicals: BPA, phthalates, PFAs, PCBs, dioxins, parabens, triclosan, talc, formaldehyde, and toluene are just some examples of toxic chemicals that interfere with your endocrine system, which we'll continue to call them endocrine disrupting chemicals from now on. One in particular that I want to make sure that you all are aware of is talc. So TALC. Talc is what you can find in baby powder. So baby powder is something that I feel like most of us have used or know someone who we, you know, used it on as a child, but there has been studies and a lot of research done that says that talc leads to, you know, a decreased function in your reproductive system as it pertains to your hormones. So that could be developing cancers, developing different types of things that affect your reproductive health and where you put this powder on. So most people put the powder underneath their arms and in their, you know, in their genital area to keep them dry. But understanding that that is covering up your pores and making it very difficult for your body to breathe, and then you're absorbing those chemicals that are found in talc. And the main thing to realize and understand about this one in particular is that for a very long time, we have been taught to do this, and, you know, understanding how we have to break down those ideas of, you know, what is really being clean and all of that, and what is, you know, beautiful or, you know, socially acceptable, you know, to look and be when you're out in public. So EDCs are found in just about everything: food, food packaging, in the environment, the water, the soil, personal care items like cosmetics, hair products, and lotions. And the main thing that these endocrine disruptors do when they are found in things that we eat and things that we put on our body is they disrupt how our body would naturally function as far as hormones. So just please be aware when you're seeing these things, and just flip the product over and just look at the back of the label and see if any of these things pop up or look familiar since you've seen this list. So what about products containing, what beauty products contain toxic ingredients? So we talked about toluene, I mentioned that. You can find that in most nail polishes and treatments. So that smell that you get right when you open up the nail polish, that is the toluene, and that is a hazardous chemical because it affects your respiratory system. The DBP, the formaldehyde, those are both also found in nail polishes and some eye glues. And then the triclosan is found in soap, body wash, and toothpaste. So the triclosan is there to make it stay like Jell-O and make it stay preserved. So if you have something, and you're looking at your beauty products and you see it says, 12 months, 24 months on that little bitty, icon, and you've had it for a few years, this triclosan is no longer functioning and doing its job. So you could be potentially exposing yourself to more of the chemicals that are in that will be considered inactive. And then parabens. So I know a lot of people see this, paraben free, as I mentioned before, but parabens are found in makeup, lipstick, eyeshadow, eyeliner, mascara, eye powder, and lip gloss. So parabens are pretty much found in everything. But nowadays I think that, consumers have been more, vigilant about what they're putting on their bodies. So now we have to see, the packaging and these companies try to, go around how they're going to promote and ultimately get us to spend our dollars. So endocrine disrupting chemicals and reproductive health. So exposure to EDCs can disrupt a person's hormone balance and contribute to a variety of health problems. For women in particular, these include early puberty, menstrual irregularities, endometriosis, fibroids, breast cancer, and other health problems that are more so related to our ability to regulate our hormones. Scientists suspect that prenatal exposure to phthalates and other toxic chemicals may set the stage for gynecological disorders and make women more sensitive to chemicals that impair, fertility. So this is why, when I was growing up, my mother used to tell me that women who are pregnant shouldn't get relaxers or things that contain lye. And that is because of its caustic ability. When it mixes with water, it gets really hot and it emits a smell. And that smell is considered toxic, not let alone what it does to your skin. So just understanding how that can impact your reproductive health for that one period of time, and then also with prolonged use, which is something that a lot of women do. We use the same products because we love how they smell, or we love how they make our skin feel, or our lips are softer, or our eyes pop. But when we use it ritualistically and don't understand how we're exposing ourselves to these chemicals, that's when we are at an increased risk to develop the fibroids and the cancers and things. So now that you have a little bit of, background knowledge, I wanted to offer you, some solutions to the problems that I'm giving as far as the toxic chemicals. So brands that rate low on this Skin Deep app. So EWG came out with an app that you can access on your phone as well as your laptop, where any item that you are looking to potentially put on your body, in your hair, on your skin, anything like that, you can type it in and it'll let you know what score it's given that particular product. So I just typed in some of the items that I use on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. So the one item that I found out of all of these items that was considered verified, for your health, good for you, potentially toxic free, as toxic free as we can get, was a brand called Well People. And they are a beauty brand that focuses on a lot of makeup and cosmetics. And then the rest of them just kind of gives you an idea of what we see in media and how these companies are portraying their item versus how they really rate on this Skin Deep third-party app. So you have 10 potential scores that you could get, but I only gave you the first 4. So number 1 score is that you are verified. Then you get the 1, the little leaf, the 1 where it's like, okay, it's good, but it's not verified. And then the 2 is just the same. And then 3 is kind of questionable. The further you go up to 10, you get closer to red. So it goes green, yellow, orange, and then red. And then one thing to keep in mind is that no matter if you're buying something from a store, you have to be, mindful that at any given point in time, these brands could change their ingredients. So you could see this on the Skin Deep app today, and then the next day you go into the store and you notice that this product doesn't match what is being displayed on the app. So just be mindful of that. So here is the demo that I'm going to provide for you today. Before I get into the demo, I just want to, go through the rest of the presentation, and then I'll jump right into you all how to make your own 100% clean flaxseed hair gel. So the ingredients that you will need is flax seeds. I'll show you what those look like, water and vitamin E oil, and then some tools, a pot, a stove, straining cloth, a clean container to put your gel in, and then something to start with. So, sorry about that. I'm trying to make sure. Okay, so here we are. So as far as the policy efforts that we try to push and be, backing and sponsoring and, making sure that we let everyone know to be aware of are as follows. And Black Women for Wellness has a 501c4 called Black Women for Wellness Action Project that takes on the role of introducing and sponsoring all of the bills that I'm going to mention after. It is imperative that cosmetic legislation addresses the disproportionate impact of toxic products on Black women. Any such effort will require understanding how systems of racism impact Black women's exposure to environmental chemicals and responding to those considerations. So one of the things to mention and be reminded of is that if you are living in a system where you are told that the way your hair looks, how dark your skin is, how you smell is not, socially acceptable, then when you think about how that disproportionately impacts those people that feel that way, they're going to be more intense and more ritualistic users of those products that make them feel accepted. So that's kind of what that statement is meaning. We need to look at how Black people and people of color are being impacted by the toxic products that are found in cosmetics and beauty things. So model legislation was passed in California in 2020. The Cosmetic Fragrance and Flavor Right to Know Act, called SB 312, requires companies to report to a state database any harmful fragrance or chemicals that are found in the cosmetics or personal care and even professional salon products. So that's number 1. And then number 2, we've been able to pass the Menstrual Products Right to Know Act of 2020 as well. And that's called AB 1989. And that requires a package or box containing menstrual products to be, that are manufactured after 2023 for sale or distribution to have a printed label of all its ingredients. So not just, what we would assume pads or tampons are made out of, cotton, string, some sort of bleaching agent. We want to see all of them. So those 2 legislations are forcing companies that make billions of dollars from us to accurately label the things that we're using and consuming. And then tapping into resources. So I talked about the Skin Deep app. There's also a website called Black and Green, as well as the Detox Me app. So these 3 databases will support you in being able to ensure you know exactly what is going on and in your body. And as far as the, we're collecting data. So as far as our environmental justice efforts, we're collecting data to see how ritualistic use affects your health. So what we're asking people to do is go onto your Google or your App Store, type in taking stock, and then download the app. Once you download the app, you will be able to scan your items. So say I have some lotion and I use it all the time. I'm going to scan it and I'm going to log my use into taking stock. And that way we can collect more data and understand how these products are affecting Black women and Latinas. And here's my Works Cited page. So if you have any questions or you want to know where I got my information from, please feel free to email me. My email is ellen@bwwla.com. And I'm gonna quickly stop sharing and then I'm gonna hop onto my iPhone. Yes, Black Girl Sunscreen is amazing. I just saw the chat. I'm gonna hop on my phone so that you guys can see the demo I'm gonna give real quick.
Okay, can everybody see me? Yes. Can someone spotlight my video really quick?
Yes, we could.
Yes, we could see you. Thank you.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure everyone can see me before I get started. And then how much time do I have? Just so I'll be mindful. I'll do it in 7 minutes. How about that?
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okie doke. No problem. No problem. So I'm going to do my best to hear you, but if you have any questions, I'm just put them in the chat because I'm on my circle light and it's blocking my speaker, so I can't really hear that well. So before I came on today, I made some of the flaxseed hair gel just so that it would be ready to go so I can show you guys because I know we're running low on time, but I'll briefly show you what I did. So I have my something to stir with. I have some tongs because the cloth was really hot after I boiled the water. But basically what I'm gonna do is, oh yeah, that looks better. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a half a cup of flax seeds into a pan, a normal saucepan. And then I'm gonna take 2.5 cups of water. So that's about a normal, 16-ounce bottle. So I'm gonna take the bottle of water and I'm gonna pour it into the flax seeds. All the way there. And then I'm gonna put it on the stove and yeah, for me, I'm not really that patient. So I turn it up really high until it starts to boil. And then once it gets like it's gonna overflow, I turn it down to like a 3 or a 2, depending on if you have an electric or a gas stove. While that's boiling, I'm making sure that I have a clean container to put my gel in, a big bowl to strain it out. And then once I'm finished and the flaxseed gel is finished boiling, it's gonna make a really, it's gonna be pretty sticky. That's the best way for me to describe it. So I'll let you see kind of the consistency. This is the consistency that we're looking for when it's ready. So you see how I can pull it and then it's in between my fingers and it's kind of it's pretty sticky. So that's the consistency that we're going for as we're boiling the flax seeds along with the water. So the only thing that's happening is the outer coat of the flax seed is covered in a really special oil that is very, nutrient and does a really good job for curly hair, for hair that's textured of any type. So it could be tight coils, loose coils, kinky, swirly, whatever you feel, whatever you have. And it's gonna help smooth out the cuticle and make it so your curls don't look so poofy. It's good to have the volume that you want, but sometimes it kind of gets a little cray if you don't have the right amount of moisture in your gel. So this is really good and I use it all the time. So while the flax seeds are boiling, I'll continue to show you what I did to make my first batch. So periodically stirring your flax seeds is going to help keep the seeds from sticking to the side and just making sure that you're not burning them because we don't want them to burn. We just want them to boil and get all soft and mushy so that the outer coating can come off. And then once you have boiled your flax seeds, and you're gonna need a straining cloth. So I just use an old bandana, so nothing super special. And you put your straining cloth over your bowl. And this is kind of what the seeds will swell up to. They don't get that much bigger, but they do get really sticky. So you can see that kind of in there. It's really sticky and it's goopy. We don't want the seed, we just want the goop. So that's gonna be the gel. So after you've poured your gel in along with the seeds, you're gonna wrap your cloth around, and it was really hot, so I used the tongs, but sometimes it's fun to use your hands. You get a little messy, and you're just gonna squeeze. And as you squeeze, you'll see the little holes in the cloth, you know, expressing some of those, that gel out. And right now, there isn't any more because I already squeezed it out, but I wanted you guys to see kind of how it looks on your hands. So once you get the oil, you rub it together, and then it's a really good coat, and it takes about, you know, a good hand wash to get it off. So this can be a way for you to see how it's going to help, you know, smooth out your cuticles and make it really easy for you to style your hair. So once I have, you know, strained out everything, I take my strained, you know, gel that's in here now. And before I put it in, I just put a couple of drops of vitamin E oil. So vitamin E is a natural preservative. Instead of using the things that I mentioned earlier, I'm using something natural, something I know where it came from. I can look on the back of this and see that it says 100% pure vitamin E oil. So I know that that is real. And then I just give it a couple of drops. So for this is about a little under a pint of gel. So I would only do about 3 or 4 drops. And then after that, I close my gel up, let it cool before you put it in the refrigerator, and then just label it because it's only good for about 2 weeks. And then you're good. All you have to do is after you got the shower or before you get in, grab your gel from the refrigerator, put it in the bathroom. Once you're finished washing your hair, deep conditioning, do whatever you do, you know, your leave-in, your oil, and then your gel, and then you're good to go. So that's my demo, and thank you all so much for listening. Please let me know if you have any questions.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. That was a great demo, and the information that you shared with your PowerPoint was so important, valuable information that we all need to be aware of, and hopefully you're inspired to read those labels and use that Healthy Living app from the Environmental Working Group. So now it's my pleasure to be able to introduce our second speaker, Yoon Nguyen. Has worked with the California Healthy Nail Salon Collaborative for over 6 years as a program and outreach coordinator. She has extensive experience with the Vietnamese nail salon community. She's been instrumental in the community outreach and organizing among the Vietnamese nail salon community, including conducting recruitment and trainings about nail salon worker health, safety, and workers' rights. She does this work in language and provides it in a way that is clear and engaging for the collaborative's monolingual participants. In addition to providing such trainings, she has conducted needs assessments with community members, including focus groups, interviews, and surveys, which are critical to informing the development and evaluation of the collaborative's programs and campaigns. So welcome, Yoon. You can go ahead and would you like to share your screen, or would you like me to advance your slides for you?
I shared my screen. Thank you. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction, Luz. So like Luz said, I am with the California Healthy Nail Salon Collaborative, and who we are. We were founded in 2005, and we are a statewide grassroots organization that addresses health and safety, environmental and reproductive justice, and other social issues that impact the nail salon industry's low-income, female, and Vietnamese immigrant and refugee workforce. We use a multi-tiered approach that blends community organizing, grassroots policy advocacy, and community-based participatory research to build power of the nail salon community by developing solutions that benefit its workforce, their families and communities, and small immigrant and refugee-owned businesses. And our mission is to improve the health, safety, and rights of the nail and beauty care workforce to achieve a healthier, more sustainable, and just industry. And the arrows along the sides represents our areas of work. So we do work in research, leadership development, policy advocacy, movement building, civic engagement, and outreach and education. And I also would like to share with you all a background of the nail salon industry in California and within nationwide. So the number of nail salons have tripled over the last 20 years. The amount of dollars spent on nail services last year was $8.36 billion. And it's a sector that continues to grow for new immigrants and small business owners. And it'll be interesting to see what these numbers look like within the next year or two, because as you all know, with the pandemic, this industry has really suffered and they're continuing to struggle even though they are allowed to reopen here in the state of California. And this is a snapshot of nail salon workers in the state of California. There are currently over 400,000 manicurists within the state. Almost 70% of them are Vietnamese, and most of them are monolingual. 95% are women of reproductive age. Although we are seeing an increase in the number of male manicurists in recent years. A lot of them are recent immigrants. Nail salon workers are low-wage workers with an average annual income of just a little over $27,000. So why do folks work in the nail salon industry? It does not require for folks to be fluent in English. Cosmetology schools offer the short and easy program in language, and it also provides them with a flexible work schedule. And how do chemicals in nail salons affect reproductive health? The nail salon can be a toxic and unsafe workplace. Manicurists are usually working up to 70 hours per week. So that's like 6 to 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day, and they're exposed to toxic chemicals found in nail products. And a lot of times it's long-term exposure. They exhibit serious health issues such as chronic asthma, skin rashes, and reproductive health issues. And manicurists who are pregnant or want to become pregnant are at a greater risk for complications such as gestational diabetes and miscarriages. And we found that male manicurists are at risk of having a lower sperm count due to chemical exposure.
Yoon, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just going to ask if everybody could double check and make sure that they're on mute, because we are hearing some background noise. So if you could please make sure you're muted, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
That actually might be me too, because I have my nephew here with me today. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
So in 2018, the collaborative, we worked with the UCLA Labor Center to publish a nail files report, the first of its kind for the nation. And so for our literature review, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. And so for the study, we did a literature review of the research that has been done within the industry. And I want to draw your attention to the first 3 bullet points of this, and it which is associated with the reproductive problems that manicures experience working in the nail salon. And so exposure to chemicals may be associated with allergies, eye and skin irritation, eczema, or reproductive problems. And those working with acrylic nails were more likely to report health problems such as nose irritation, allergies, skin irritation, stress, pain, coughing, nausea, difficulty breathing, asthma, and miscarriages. And acrylic nails we have found to be the most harmful nail service that one can receive, just because of the products that it's used to have to create the acrylic nail. There's a lot of drilling involved, a lot of filing, and so one second, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Oh, the joys of working from home. Okay, yeah, and so the third bullet point is that one survey showed that 10% of nail salon staff worked while they were pregnant, and 8% of workers know a worker who had reproductive complications such as birth defects, miscarriages, stillbirths, and difficulty conceiving. And in other studies, workers also reported reproductive effects, and some included miscarriages. And this, the full report can be found on the collaborative's website. And I want to share with you all the chemical hazards that are found in nail polish. And these chemicals were mentioned by Ellen earlier in her presentation as well. So when the collaborative first started doing our work in 2005, we found that these three chemicals were the most prevalent in nail polish. So and it's dubbed the toxic trio. And the chemical that affects reproductive health is dibutyl phthalate, or DBP. And DBP is a plasticizer, so it softens the polish to stop it from cracking. It can harm unborn children and impair fertility. And since 2005, when the toxic trio was very prevalent in nail polish, we did a lot of work, a lot of advocacy. And since then, a lot of the big brand nail polishes, they no longer have these chemicals. Some might have like one or two of them, but we found that they are substituting them with like regrettable like chemicals. And so further research needs to be done, but we're seeing that the chemicals that are being substituted for these chemicals might have the same harmful effect. So it's good so we are keeping an eye on it and doing more research on that. How does the collaborative reduce risk and promote healthy nail salons? So in 2010, we created the Healthy Nail Salon program. It started in San Francisco County, and it is a free and voluntary program for salons to join at that time in the city and county of San Francisco. And since then, it has expanded to other counties in the Bay Area, so the counties of Alameda, Marin, and Santa Clara, and then down here in Southern California, the city of Santa Monica and LA County has that program. And in order for salons to join the program, they have to meet 9 criteria, which are to use nail polishes that do not contain the toxic trio, to use safer nail polish removers such as acetone, avoid using nail polish thinners, wear nitrile gloves, and have proper ventilation, especially when they are doing artificial nail services, because during that time, like I mentioned before, that there is a lot of drilling involved and filing, and so there will be a lot of like dust in the air. They should also install mechanical ventilation units. So if the salon doesn't have general ventilation, they can have these portable ventilation units like the one on the right, where it can be moved around the salon to be used where it's needed. to use safer artificial nail products, or to not do artificial nails at all, to train all nail salon staff on the safer practices, and to not use products that customers bring in unless they meet the program's criteria. And these are 2 pictures of salons that have been recognized within the state of California. So currently there are over 200 healthy nail salons within the state. And when they are recognized, they receive a plaque that they can hang in their salon to show that they are a healthy nail salon. They also receive other perks and benefits within the city or the county they are with. So the city and county will have like the name of their salon like on a website. If someone Googles like healthy nail salons in Santa Monica, a list will show up of the healthy nail salons within the city. And every now and then the city or the county will do like campaigns, especially in the summer, and that has shown to really boost their business. And in recent years, salons who have joined the program have seen an increase in business up to 20%, because folks now are being more like conscious of what they're putting on their body and seeking out healthier services. So like I shared earlier, currently the program is available in San Francisco, Marin, Alameda, and Santa Clara in Northern California, and then in Southern California, it's available in the state of Santa Monica. And a few years ago, we passed Assembly Bill 2125, which has expanded the Healthy Nail Salon program to be a statewide program. And it is housed within the Department of Toxic Substances Control. And so there, cities or counties who are interested in adopting the program, they can contact the DTSC to get information on how they can do that. And so we have worked very closely with DTSC in terms of developing outreach materials and providing TA support to those cities and counties who are interested. And we have been in talks with LA County for them to adopt the program for the whole county. And they have been very receptive and interested in the program, but with the pandemic, it's been tabled for now. And again, for Senate Bill 312, which Ellen also shared earlier, but I will share a little bit more. Like BWW, the collaborative was also a co-sponsor. And so Governor Newsom signed this bill into law this year, and it becomes effective January 1st, 2022. And what it will do is it will require manufacturers that sell cosmetic products in California to report certain hazardous fragrance and flavor ingredients to the Department of Public Health Safe Cosmetics program. DPH will then release this information to the public through their Safe Cosmetics database, and they will also describe the health hazards that are associated with the reported ingredients. We are also involved in research. We have a research grant funded through the California Breast Cancer Research Program. And in addition to our organization, we're also working with 2 other organizations. One organization working with Latinx folks, and another organization working with Black folks. And so each organization collected about 100 surveys from their community, all women. And from that, we identified the top 10 products within each community. And so, and then we sent those products to a lab, and we are waiting for the results to come back. And if we find that if any of these products have any ingredients of concern, we will then share the information with our community, and also offer them alternative products that they can use instead of the products that they are currently using. We also do a lot of coalition and movement building work. In terms of our national work, we work with organizations in the state of like Texas, Pennsylvania, New York, and for that, and these organizations also work with nail salon workers. And so we do a lot of like shared work and sharing best practices in how we can support each other working with folks who are in the nail salon industry. Community resources. We have a running list of COVID-19 resources that is on our website, and it covers all areas within the state of California, from housing, personal protective equipment, small business grants and loans, and other mutual aid. And we also developed in-language reopening guidelines and signage for nail salons to use. That's been a very popular item of ours. We were the first to do it, and it's also been widely shared with the Board of Barber and Cosmetology within the state, who license the cosmetologists, and also with the governor's office. And so our reopening guidelines take into it combines the guidelines of the state, the county, and also the Board of Barber and Cosmetology. And our guidelines are a little bit stricter than what the other sources have, and that can also be found on our website as well. And this is my contact information, the collaborative's website, our information for our social media if y'all are interested in following us to stay up to date in all the great and amazing work that we're doing. Stop sharing screen.
Thank you, Yoon. That was a great presentation. Thank you for your important work. And I was especially heartened to hear that the nail salons that you work with have increased their business, you said, by 20%. That's awesome. So I will now go ahead and introduce our third and final presenter. Faith Rader has a master's in an MA and an MCHES. She's a health education and communications specialist with the California Department of Public Health, with many years experience in the areas of worker health, workers' rights, and environmental health. She builds broader awareness of the Environmental Health Investigations Branch and its prevention campaigns on a statewide level, plans and executes communications across all media platforms, and conducts education and outreach. Welcome, Faith. We're happy to have you, and I believe you'd like me to advance your slides, correct? So,
yes, please.
I'm sorry, give me just a second.
That's okay. While you're looking for it, I will just say thank you so much for inviting me to speak. I spoke at last year's conference, and my talk this year is a little bit of an update of a program. And I'm just really happy that you guys could all join today, and I hope you're staying safe, you and your families, from COVID, since we are now having a new surge. So Luce, if you need me to, I can get it up on my screen, but I did email it to you.
Yeah, yes, I have it just about ready. Okay. Oh, sorry. Give me one more second because I need to enable the editing before I can show it as a PowerPoint.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about partnerships to prevent mercury poisonings from skin cream. And my talk is a little different than the other two talks, in the sense that the chemicals in the products that have been talked about so far can cause reproductive harm and harm over time. But I'm talking about products that can poison people in an acute way, which means in a quick way. So let me know when you're ready, Luce.
It's not visible?
It is visible, or
Okay.
at least to me.
Okay.
Can other people see it?
Yes, okay. So would
Yeah,
you
we
like
can
me
see
to
it. Thank
go
you.
ahead and move forward?
Yes, please. So, so I am talking about skin lightening and brightening creams. I think most people know what mercury is. It's that silvery stuff that they used to put in those old-fashioned thermometers, and it's a poisonous heavy metal. And mercury is actually added intentionally or on purpose to some creams, even though it's poisonous. And they're added to these creams that are used by a number of California cultural groups, including Southeast Asians, South Asians, and Latin Americans. I think a lot of people do not know about the mercury in them, but they use these creams because these creams can lighten skin, and they can also fade marks and blemishes and treat acne. So in some cultural groups, you know, lighter skin is valued, and that is because of the concept of colorism, which is when there's, you know, discrimination against people who have darker skin tone, usually within that cultural group. So obviously that is not something that we would want to promote. We're promoting, you know, love the skin you're in. But also among, you know, Latin American groups, Mexican Americans, these creams are popular because they are helpful in removing sunspots. And, you know, there's a large population of Spanish-speaking people in California who work outside. Next slide, please. So there are 3 types of creams that we are concerned about. They are imported creams, so creams that come from other countries, handmade creams, and tainted, well-known creams. And I'm going to talk about each of those types. Over on the right side is a picture of a cream called La Tia Mana that is available in this country and in Mexico. It comes from Mexico, and it's full of mercury and widely available. Next slide, please. So the first kind of cream that we're concerned about are foreign brand skin creams. So skin creams from other countries. And they are widely available in ethnic markets and online. And they usually have claims of skin lightening, skin brightening, or removing acne or removing spots. They come from a variety of countries, including Mexico, China, Cambodia, the Philippines, Pakistan, and a bunch of other countries. And the California Department of Public Health has created a list, a picture list of creams to avoid. So over on the right-hand side, there are some pictures of creams that we have tested and found to have mercury, but if you go to this link, which is tinyurl.com/YY7QGG7S, there's a whole list of them, or you can also go to our website. I'll give that link later. So that's the first kind of cream, and these creams are very concerning because, sorry, go to the next slide. In the last, well, in the 10 years between 2006 and 2016, the amount of imported beauty products in the United States has doubled, and the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, has found that 1 in 5 of these imported creams are toxic, including these anti-blemish and skin whitening creams. So the problem is growing. Next slide, please. The second type of cream we're concerned about are handmade creams. And so these are creams that are either unlabeled or they have homemade labels. They're handmade, and you know, some people call them artisanal creams, like, you know, like a home industry of making creams. And Often they have no label or they have a handmade label, and they come in all types of containers and colors, and they're sold online or through word of mouth or through informal networks. And last year we found a California woman in Tulare County was selling these creams on Facebook, and she was actually arrested, and she faces a maximum sentence of 26 years in federal prison if she's convicted of selling adulterated and misbranded skincare products. Next slide, please. So, and then the final type of cream that we're concerned about are well-known creams like these two Pond's brands that are shown here at the bottom of the slide. There's on the left Pond's Rejuvenesce and on the right Pond's Clarente. But it's not these creams that are the problem. The problem is that somebody, a few times, not often, but a few times, somebody has taken these creams, opened them up, added mercury, and then sold them either in swap meets or flea markets or person to person. And in some cases, they even told the person that they sold them to, like, hey, we added an anti-aging ingredient that will help this cream work even better. If anyone ever tries to sell you something like that, do not buy it, for sure. So the way to avoid this problem is if you're gonna buy a Pond's cream or any well-known cream like this, or really any cream, we would suggest that you buy it in a well-known store, like a chain store, like Target or Walgreens or CVS, places like that. Usually these creams come with a seal, and that seal should not be broken. So those are the three types of creams. And next slide, please. There was a case last year that really publicized this issue of tainted creams, because there was a 47-year-old woman in Sacramento who bought a Pond's Rejuvenesce cream from someone she knew. That person told her, hey, I added an extra ingredient that will help this cream work better for anti-aging. The woman was using the cream, and then she was hospitalized with brain damage. So it turned out that in this case, the type of mercury that was in the cream was different than what we had seen before in California. And we have investigated about 80 cases of cream poisonings. But in this case, we saw that the mercury inside the cream was called methyl mercury. Very, very dangerous, much more dangerous than the other types of mercury we have seen. And so, there was a lot of publicity about this case because of the severity of the injury, but also this case was a little bit of a wake-up call that we needed to be even more careful with these creams than we had first suspected, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next slide, please. So just to review for some people the health effects of mercury. So it is one of those things where it does affect the brain and nervous system the most. And it does affect children and pregnant women the most because they are the most vulnerable. So, I mean, it's, they're at higher risk because they're in a vulnerable stage of life. And some of the common symptoms include things that might be hard to spot, like difficulty concentrating, nervousness, depression, insomnia, headaches, poor appetite or weight loss, fatigue. It can also affect how children learn or how children behave, and even affect their walking and talking. But because these symptoms can be a little bit hard to attribute to a cream, if mercury exposure is suspected, then we recommend getting a urine and a blood test, because otherwise the symptoms can be mild, or a doctor can think that they are not related to the skin cream. Next slide, please. And so we have investigated cases. There is a typical profile of somebody who has been poisoned by these skin creams. And it's usually a woman using, products from the country that she came from over time, 5 to 8 years. The symptoms, as I said before, can be, relatively mild, like headaches, insomnia, and irritability. And they are not thinking that the cream is causing their health effects. They usually go to the doctor, and then it usually takes some time to identify that they have mercury poisoning. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk about the type of work that we do with communities, and we really couldn't do the work that we do without working with grassroots community groups. And so our three-pronged approach to reduce the use and availability of mercury-containing creams includes community partnerships and tracking creams, and I'll explain what that means in a minute, community education and outreach, and vendor education, or education for people who may be selling these creams. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of some of our community partners. On the left is Campesinas Unidas doing having an informational table at a health fair in the Central Valley. And over on the right are a group of people who are role-playing how to speak to other people about the issue of mercury in skin creams. And all of these people are from the Central Valley. That's where we have concentrated our efforts primarily so far. And like I said before, these are the folks who really help us do the work on the ground. Next slide, please. So the first part of our exposure prevention strategy is to partner, fund, and train members of community-based organizations, that's what that CBO stands for, who live and work in the communities where creams are used and sold. And the reason we do that is because they know their communities best. They know them way better than we could ever know them. And their work, one piece of their work is to identify stores, swap meets, and individuals who are selling these creams and let us know where they're being sold. And then they also purchase the products that they find and send them to us. And when I say us, I mean the state, the California Department of Public Health, so that we can test them for mercury. So over on the right side is a picture of the Bakersfield swap meet in 2019. And with the 3 circled creams are creams that we had already tested previously and knew they had mercury. And then we asked community members to go out and find those creams, and then they found them at the Bakersfield swap meet, among other places. Next slide, please. This slide is a little complicated, and I apologize for that. I'll give you the bottom line first and then kind of walk through the numbers. So basically, in 3 different, let me start again. We have collected over 500 creams, and 1 in 4 of those creams have tested positive for mercury. So that's the bottom line. We started in 2012 and 2013 in 4 counties up in Northern California and the Bay Area, and went into shops and bought creams. And you can see that almost 1 in 5 of those creams did have mercury in them. And then in the latest round, the work that I'm describing now, where we're working with community-based organizations that either go out and buy these creams that are suspected to have mercury in stores, or they invite community members to bring suspect creams to them we've collected, almost 340 creams that way, and almost 1 in 4 of them have tested positive for mercury. Then we have the case investigations that I talked about, and we have also looked at online creams just recently. So over on the right-hand side is a map of California, and it just shows you where we worked in 2012, where we worked in 2019 and 2020, and where the cases have been. So most of the cases have been in Southern California. Let's see, next slide, please. So we also work with our community partners to do community education. And previously, before COVID, and also before we found that methyl mercury cream, we would, work with the community-based organizations and train their staff. And also the community-based organizations would host community events. And so what we would do is have in one room we would be doing a participatory workshop where people were learning about, mercury and lead in beauty products. And in the next room, we would have the products that people brought to be tested for lead and mercury. And we would be using the machine you see in the picture to the right. It's called an XRF gun. And we would be testing the creams for mercury. And then if we found, which we often did, find creams that tested high for mercury, we would interview the cream owner about where they found the cream, how often they had been using it, whether they were having any health effects, and then we would help them contact their healthcare providers to get treatment to reduce the level of mercury in their bodies. So that was the old days. And next slide, please. So after that Sacramento poisoning case that I mentioned before, we realized that methyl mercury in the creams can be so toxic that just opening a cream, and being around community members could put them at harm. And so, of course, we did not want to do that. So we switched to a model where we were having the same participatory workshops, but instead of testing the products on site and, giving back the ones that didn't have mercury and keeping the ones that had mercury, we would collect all of the suspect products in exchange for a gift card. So we're giving gift cards or clean products to people who would bring their products, and then take them all back to the California Department of Public Health and do the testing under a ventilation hood so that nobody got hurt. And then when we were finding positive creams, we would do the interviews by phone and also help them make sure that they got appropriate medical care. So, and then of course, after COVID, we stopped having community workshops. So that's where we are now. So next slide, please. This is about our educational materials. So the California Department of Public Health has produced educational materials. We always consult with members of the community and our partners about the messaging, because they are the ones who are the culturally and linguistically appropriate conveyors of health messages within their own communities. So we'll draft something up, but then we test it and ask for input before we put together final versions. All of our materials are on the webpage that I've listed here. So it's bit.ly/mercury and cream is our page. And it also includes that list of dangerous creams that I talked about before. We have put out health alerts to the medical community in 2010, 14, and 19. We have some Spanish radio public service announcements about mercury and skin cream on the site. And then we have lots of fact sheets in Spanish and English. Now we are in the process of increasing the number of languages that we have fact sheets in, so that we are expanding to about 15. They include Chinese, Tagalog, Pashto, and Urdu. So a lot of the languages from the countries that are exporting these creams. Next slide, please. So before COVID, things were different for all of us. And at the California Department of Public Health, we were working with our community partners to do they were doing outreach in their own communities, as I showed you before. And they were also partnering with us to present at conferences. Like the picture on the right here is a picture of one of our staff members and a member of a community organization who are presenting together at a Promotore de Salud conference. And we were starting to get local health departments involved by educating their staff, collaborating with them on poisoning cases. And we were just starting to talk about doing, much more media and public educational campaigning when COVID hit, and, all the local health department staff, as I'm sure you guys all know, are, swamped dealing with COVID. So it was not possible to move forward on that, but we hope to get back to it. Next slide, please. Again, before the pandemic, we started to do education to store owners, and we quickly realized that the owners of small stores are really just members of their community, and they're really not trying to harm anyone, and they probably don't realize that there can be mercury in the products they sell. And so we really wanted to not give them a hard time, but really educate them about the products they might be selling. And so originally our plan was to go and do education in person, face to face, and then have our community partners follow us about a month later to see if the store owners were still selling problematic products. But because of the pandemic, we had to scale back our plans so that we sent them an information package in the mail. And our community partners are still following up, but it's, it's just going much more slowly because of the pandemic. It's just sort of like when they're in the store, they'll check for the products, but they're not making special trips. But we did find that of the stores that we sent the information to, and we actually called them to follow up, we had a really good response. I mean, some people knew about the issue, but most didn't. And some of them, some of the stores where we had seen the products before told us, oh no, we wouldn't sell those products, which we actually thought was a sign that, they knew that the products were bad and would avoid them at least in the future. And so that was a good thing. Next slide, please. So there was that earlier slide where we talked about looking at the creams being sold online. I think during the pandemic, we've really taken the opportunity to look at online sales and have found so many creams for sale on eBay, on Amazon, on Facebook Marketplace, and other sites. And so we started thinking, what would it take to really be kind of proactive in talking to those online sellers. And so we formed a community-led coalition called the Alliance for Mercury-Free Cosmetics that include members of grassroots organizations all over the state, from the Bay Area to Sacramento County to LA, San Diego, and Imperial. And the idea is that we will create a Facebook page that we'll use as a base to reach out to online cream sellers and let them know that selling these creams are illegal. And we also would like to reach out to cream users. A lot of cream users, just post online and let them know that they're putting their health at risk. And so the second meeting of our coalition is coming up in the beginning of next month. I do want to say that any member of a grassroots organization who wants to join us is welcome. And right now, I think our meetings are in English and Spanish, but that might change as we branch out and we allow any grassroots community member to join us. Next slide, please. So that's really all I had, and thank you for the time. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing if you have any questions about this topic.
Thank you so much, Faith, and all the presenters. So if anybody has any questions, you can certainly put them into the chat. I've been checking, and I saw a lot of people commenting on how great the information has been. I haven't necessarily seen a question, but now's your opportunity if you have a question for any of our three presenters, for Alan, Yoon, or Faith. I know somebody asked for the recipe that Alan made, and that will be sent out. You will be receiving a copy of all of the information presented today, including the slides. And I see that Alan actually put the recipe into the chat. While I'm looking, I actually have a question for you, Faith. Do you know the outcome of the woman whose case you highlighted, the woman in Sacramento that got poisoned? Did she recover?
She did not recover. She has irreversible brain damage. It's really, really sad. I think most of every other case that we have investigated has involved a different kind of mercury called calomel. And usually when people are poisoned by that kind of mercury, it just takes time and maybe chelation to get the mercury out of their bodies, and they can be fine again. But in her case, because of the type of mercury, she won't recover, and it's very tragic for her and her family. And I did see another question in there for me about where the mercury comes from, which yes, I think is a really great question and related to this, because we have no idea how somebody took an ingredient that is as dangerous as methyl mercury and added it to cream without, being severely impacted themselves, right? It's just so toxic. How did they do that? We have no idea. And we also don't know who's selling that type of mercury and where it comes from. But we have seen on certain online marketplaces that you can buy the other kind of mercury. You could just buy a bottle for, $5. It's very, that kind of mercury is very available.
Thank you. Any other questions at all before we conduct the raffle?
Well, this is Julie from UCLA, and I just want to thank all of our presenters and Luz for just a really stimulating, series of presentations that I think really resonate with everybody. And, Jules Gracian, who's helped coordinate this with Luz, will be sending follow-up information, and we hope to engage all of you in our future activities in spreading these messages to populations throughout LA County that are at risk for reproductive harm, as well as just general health harm because of exposure. So I just want to thank everybody.